Are you looking for inspiration on a daily basis? Well, check out Deal to Heal Tees. With our inspirational tees, you're sure to find something that will inspire you. Just go to dealtohealtees.myshopify.com. That's Deal to Heal Tees. Get some inspiration in your situation. Wear inspirational tee and be inspired all day. That's Deal to Heal Tees at dealtohealtees.myshopify.com. Hi guys, if you're enjoying this podcast, then I know you'll enjoy the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. I'm your host, Earnest James. And on my podcast, my guests and I discuss topics and ways to help us to heal in every area of our lives. I believe that everyone can and should live a life that is whole, healed, and healthy. And therefore, I'm on a mission to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill, to deal with their problems, heal from the pain, and to fulfill their purpose. So check out our podcast. We're on Google Podcasts, Spotify, or even on Audible. And if you want to watch the podcast, check us out on our YouTube channel at Deal to Heal with E. James Podcast. Until then, see you soon. Welcome to the Girl Dad Discussions podcast with E. James. We believe that the relationship between a dad and daughter is one of the most important relationships in a woman's life. Our mission is to promote the daddy-daughter relationship by spreading the voices of girl dads to the world and give love and support to all of our dads and their daughters. Let's get to it. Let's tune in. All right. Welcome to the Girl Dad Discussions podcast. I'm your host, Earnest James, and I believe that the relationship between a dad and his daughter is one of the most important relationships in a woman's life. And therefore, our mission is to promote the daddy-daughter relationship by spreading the voices of girl dads to the world in order to combat the narrative of the absent father and the fatherless daughter. Thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Girl Dad Discussions podcast. If you haven't already, make sure that you listen, like, subscribe, and share our podcast on all of our social media pages at Girl Dad Discussions podcast. Also, make sure that you guys are checking us out on our new YouTube channel, which is the Deal to Heal Podcasting Network. Again, we're on the Deal to Heal Podcasting Network channel, where you will find the Girl Dad Discussions podcast, as well as our partner podcast, which is the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. Both of those podcasts can be found on the Deal to Heal Podcasting Network channel on YouTube. So make sure you guys go and check us out there. Also, our product of the week. As you guys know, we are a self-sustained podcast, and the way that we stay on the air is by bringing you amazing products for you to purchase. And so our product of the week is our Purpose Journal, as well as our Purpose Planner, because we believe that we should journal in order to keep track of where we've been and where we are, as well as plan for our future. So you guys can get your copy of our Purpose Journal and our Purpose Planner on Amazon. The links are in the description, under the podcast. So make sure that you guys, are checking us out there. However, today, just like any other day, we are blessed with the guest, not a unfamiliar guest. If you are a listener to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, but we are back with Jason. And how you doing, Jason?
I'm good, man. I'm on fire. I'm excited to be here to chat with you tonight.
Yeah, man. I'm glad to have you. Could have been anywhere else with anyone else, but you're here with me and my listeners. We definitely appreciate it. So, Jason, we go jump right in it. Do me a favor, give us a quick um, idea. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what it is that you do.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Like he said, appreciate the introduction. I'm Jason Pockrant, two-time best-selling Amazon author, TEDx speaker. My latest book was Father-Daughter Conversations. That was a book that I put together back in 2015 with myself and 10 other dads to figure out what we're going to talk about tonight. How to help brand new dads figure out what in the hell do I do as a new dad with a daughter. I've been in business, self-employed, doing entrepreneurship, e-commerce, licensed real estate agent here in Michigan. So realtor, affiliate marketer, business owner, coach, speaker, do a little bit of all things here. Essentially anything I can do that I've been able to do since 2012 to create the life of freedom for myself and my family so that I can stay with my wife and my two daughters and help other dads do the same and figure out how to better connect and fully engage with their little girls. So
I love it. I love it. That means we're gonna have a great conversation. So, Jason, starting off, I always like to start off with two questions to all of my girl dads. So, first question is, what does it mean for you to be a girl dad? And then, what is it? What is something that your daughters have taught you?
mm, I think I think what it means to be a girl dad is it means that maybe for the first time in your life as a man, you have to put down the shield and you put down the armor and you have to allow yourself to experience vulnerability and
Mhm.
authenticity at its deepest levels, maybe
Yeah.
sometimes for the first time. Um, but it's just one of the greatest learning experiences and just being able to kind of understand what it means to really be the one single rock and role model that another human being in this life is staring and watching and learning and reading and listening and just like modeling everything we do. I think it's one of the most profound and most challenging and it's like one of the hardest roles out there. But I
Yeah.
think that's the key is just kind of discovering that in the first place. And
Yeah.
second question was, hit me again.
What is something your daughters have taught you?
Um, well, I mean, it's gonna sound cliche because I spend most of my days in my life trying to like help other dads be present and be fully engaged. And I think one of my hardest, most like difficult kryptonites is actually being present sometimes with my daughters. Like,
Yeah.
there's been a few times where my daughter has literally said to my wife, Dad's on his phone all the time." I'm like, "I'm not on my phone. I got to talk to clients. I got to sell houses. I'm doing real estate." But then like just that realization for myself of like of how much I say, "Hey, I want to be here with you guys," and then the challenge that it can be to literally put your phone down and like play the game, watch the movie, watch the show, to just give that undivided attention. We all know we need to do it. We all know it's what our girls want from us. So it's been interesting, like to hear my girls like call me out and point it out. I'm like, "You were playing on my iPad all morning." You're like, "Dad's on his phone again." I'm like, "Okay, fine. I'm on my phone. Relax." You know? So
I love that because that is so real for most of us as dads. And one of my mentors in the speaking space, Jeremy Anderson, who's a professional speaker,
nice.
he has a um, he has a speech that he does that he presents on called occupational integrity, right? And it's not most people automatically think occupational, so it's like on the job. He's like, no, it's being, using integrity in every space that you occupy as a person, and he gave the story about, that very same thing as him even being the one who's preaching this message,
Mm-hmm.
to people, but also to dads about being present and being, not giving your job your best and your family the rest, right?
Nice.
And so it's really about, being present with your family. And then he's like, but he knows that it's hard because he himself found himself doing it one day. You're working and you're trying to do this, and the kids come
Yeah.
in like, "Hey, Dad, let's." I think it was his son. He gave the example. His son came in, it's like, "Hey, yeah, let's go in the backyard, and play basketball." And he's like, "No, I got to do this. I got to do whatever." And right after he said it, it's like it's like God tapped him on his shoulder. It's
Hmm.
like, you're being a hypocrite because you just gave this speech at
Yeah.
that corporate office, last week,
Yep.
telling them to be present, and now you're not present, and it was like that wake up call. It was like, oh, what I'm saying? So he had to, put his stuff down and attend to his family. But as men, that is, hard sometimes because we have so much responsibility, on us as husbands and fathers. But we can't neglect the fact that, yes, we're doing this for our families, but at the same time, what's most important to them is us, not necessarily the things that we do,
Right.
and so we do have to be present. So, Jason, I'm gonna take it back a little bit, man. First of all, and I always forget to ask this question, so I
Yeah.
got to make sure I ask.
Yeah.
What is your daughter's names and what is their ages?
Yeah, we've got I got two little ones running around. I've got Lakin and Lennox. So Lennox is firstborn, my number one princess. She has me remind her all the time that she's daddy's little girl and she's my favorite because she was first. And she's 10. And then Lakin is our little Spitfire 4-year old who just came in and stole my smoothie. So yeah, that's those two.
So let's go back, Jason, and you can speak on the experience of either daughter or both daughters,
Yeah.
right? So how did you find out you were going to be a dad for the first time? So was it planned, as we would like to say, or was it just like, hey, honey, we're here now, surprise?
Yeah. So, funny story. I tell people all the time. So, I live in Michigan. I live in Michigan, right? And I've been here for 38 years of my life. I tell people I've been trying to move away for like 36. But there was two times we were going to move away, right? Like our dream and our heart's always been to kind of live in Tennessee. I was just at therapy this morning, actually talking to my therapist about it. She's like, this isn't working for you, right? Like this. I was like, I know, um, but no, it's funny. So the very first time we found out, right? I was actually speaking. I was in Toastmasters at the time. I was going through their distinguished Toastmaster program. I remember I was competing in the competitions, and I had some training at the time. This was right before my TEDx talk, actually. I got training. I had a coaching session I won with the 2004 World Toastmasters champion Lance Armstrong. And so I got a coaching call with him, right? And he actually coached me through my whole TEDx talk that I gave and helped me work through those things. But I remember I was at Toastmasters. My wife drove me out there, dropped me off. And I think it was like right before she ended up dropping me off that night too. We had went to the doctor's that afternoon. We had the pregnancy test. We went there. And I remember I put this in the book. There was in my very first chapter. Very first chapter of the book is called "Oh shit, I'm going to be a dad." And because I remember my wife, we went out there, went to the doctors, and she takes pregnancy test, and doctor comes back in the office, and she goes, "Congratulations!" And I looked at her and I said, "For what?" You're gonna be a dad, and I was like, "Oh shit!" All right. And then I remember like, hey, babe, I was like, we got to go. I got Toastmasters in like an hour. And so I remember she dropped me off out at Toastmasters and I did the meeting or whatever and got back. It's funny. I still have I just found it a couple days ago. We still have a picture of the pregnancy test I found on the laptop from like years ago and stuff. But yeah, that was 2015. And it was right around the time we were thinking about I left my last job as a team leader over at Target right before that, and I remember that was right about the time we were like, let's move to Tennessee, let's up and go, chase the dream. We'd only been married for a year, um, so that quickly sizzled, and I was like, yeah, and then we're like, here we go, and then a few years later, 2019-20 came, we had a situation happen and we ended up losing one, and and then shortly after that, right around COVID time, another one of those, there you go. I was like, let's move out of state. Let's leave. Let's get the motorhome. We're going traveling, baby. And then we're like, we're not. We're having another baby. And, yeah, best things ever could happen. But that's the two of them. I thought we were down the path. I thought we were clear. We had like the 8-year-old. We had a couple good solid years. I just told the wife the other day, I said, man, 4 to 6. I remember Lennox, her and I went real strong. So we did all the videos, Facebook Lives, daddy daughter dances, videos. Now she don't really seem to be too worried about me being here now that she's 10. But yeah, I thought we were in the clear, and then now we're starting back over. So
Okay. So did you guys? I know you mentioned about you guys going to take the pregnancy test at the hospital. Did
Yeah.
you guys find out what the sex was beforehand, or did you guys do like a gender reveal, or you just were
No,
like, you know what, we just gonna be surprised?
no, we actually so we did the doctor's thing. We waited a while. We I remember actually we actually went and we went and to we revealed the gender for each other at Olive Garden because that's where we like to go out to eat. So I remember we went. I have a little video. I have a video somewhere actually I can find. Um, yeah, we had the envelope sitting with us and stuff, and we opened up the envelope at the restaurant there out at the Olive Garden. And till this day, that's one of Lennox's favorite places to eat. But yeah, we did it at the Olive Garden. We got all excited. We were like, "I want some Zappa soup, some sausage soup." So we went out there and then revealed it, and that's when we found out we are gonna have a girl. I was like, "All right, all right."
All right. What about the second time? You guys same deal or?
That one, that one we ended up going in for. We went in for an ultrasound, if I remember. Yeah, I remember we went in for an ultrasound, and I think we were sitting there, and I don't know if the doctor. I'm not sure. I don't remember if she did it right then or not, but she kind of like typed it up right in the ultrasound there, right, and it said like, "Hi, I'm a girl," and like kind of like threw it out there for us right there. So yeah, I remember I have an ultrasound picture somewhere that says, "I'm a girl." So yeah,
Sweet.
there's no like crazy surprises. I wasn't gonna wait around until the baby got here.
Right.
Too many clothes.
Yeah. So as a new dad, so when I started this podcast, I purposely had my first guest, which is my cousin, right?
Yeah.
So brand new dad, first child, little girl. I
Right.
think at the time that we recorded the podcast, she was only like 2 or 3 months,
Okay.
right? And I had him be my first guest. Um, and so I always say that, with these guests that I have on, I like to reflect back to him because, like, all right, what can we share as dads? You've been 10 years in now,
Yeah.
with one daughter, like, what can we share back to him to help him on this journey since he's just getting started? But for you, take it back to your experience as a brand new dad,
Yeah.
first child, you come home and it's like, oh man, okay, now now what, so how was that experience as being a brand new dad with a brand new baby girl?
It was dude, it was so crazy. I remember I remember some of my absolute favorite times in my life though were the nights when I got to stay up with her,
Mhm.
like cuz I remember vividly like back at the time we would have Netflix and so it'd be, 1, 2, 3, 4 in the morning, right? Like those 4 or 5 hour stretches where the wife's asleep and I'd just be sitting on the couch. And I remember that's when I remember I found Blacklist. So I remember like I would sit there with the baby on my chest, half asleep, trying to feed her a bottle, trying to get her to stop crying, just burn through season, like all 6 or 7 or 8 seasons of Blacklist. I was like, this show's amazing. And it's things like that, honestly, that I think we take for granted. You know what I mean? Like just that quiet time that we had. Like just think about that time of just bonding with her and being able to be like, man, this is mine. Like I helped create this little baby, this tiny little human. And as you look back at the pictures and the videos, right? Like I don't think as we get older and our daughters get older, I don't think we really, really, really can appreciate how amazing those tiny little baby years are. Like
Yeah,
when it's just this fresh, beautiful, like clueless little human that doesn't have to worry about the bills or the groceries or the paychecks or the job or nothing. And to think about like that's like we did that and we get to shape that human and take that and like mold her and help teach her and just play with her and laugh with her. Like I think one of the biggest takeaways, right, is what I'd say is that too many dads want to get past that. Like they want to just get past the baby stage, like the crying and the screaming and the yelling. And like I personally like there's days where I look at my daughters and I'm like, man, like I look at, your friends of mine, young kids, 25, 26 years old, and he's got his tiny little baby. And he's like, oh my God, your baby's so cute. Like, I just want to have a cute little baby to hold him and squeeze him. I'm like, my kids are like, yeah, Dad, it's some play. It's so much TV. I'm like, that's kind of missed you when you liked me better,
yeah,
you know? Um, I think it's like I think that's one thing they take for granted. Like everyone's like, that sucks and it's so hard and you're up all night and you're crying and screaming and you got to work and blah blah blah. And I'm like, just embrace all of that.
Yeah.
Like that was my motto. I was like, dude, I'm watching another 3 episodes of Blacklist. We're gonna hang out with that baby. It's gonna be awesome. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd love to have that back.
Yeah, and I agree with you 100%. I think that was some of my favorite years,
Yeah.
with her, and not just with her. So for whatever reason, I have a thing with babies, with girl babies, right? And so when she was born, I had my daughter all the time. When my oldest son had, not my second oldest son, had our first granddaughter, right?
Mm.
They stayed with her. She stayed with us for, man, I don't know, almost a whole year, since she was
Awesome.
born. She stayed with our family and nobody could get her to go to sleep. She would be crying all the time. And I
Yeah.
was just like, bring her to me,
Bring it to me.
bring her to me. And I
Yeah.
would take her and I'll hold her and go sit in my room in my little rocking chair and she'll be knocked straight out. So I always had that, that thing
Touch.
with like baby girls, man. And yeah, like you said, love those years and definitely remember those years. My daughter's 22 now.
I
You know
know.
what I'm saying?
You're
And
nuts.
so when you look at it now, it's like, man, as she's all grown up, it's like you'll never get that time back. And it goes a lot faster than we think. When you're in the midst of it, it seems like, it's taking a while. It's like, oh, she's this little, I got to do everything for her. But then there's going to come a day when she's like, I'm out of here. My daughter just went back to Texas. She was
Oh,
staying with me
nice.
for a while, but now she's just like, all right, Dad, I want to move back to Texas. And
Oh,
so she's
really?
out. You know what I mean? So it's like, once they get that certain age, it's like, all right, I'm good, Dad. I'll see you when see you when I see you.
You
You
want
know?
to see you?
So yeah, so we definitely have to embrace those times and those
Yeah.
moments. So I know I asked you what is something that your daughter's taught you, but I want to ask a similar question, right? What is something that you've learned from them that has kind of changed you for the better? Because we think we are great dads and great men, and then we have a conversation or an experience and be like, okay, well, I see where I can do better. And even in my own life, with my daughter being 22 now, we had a conversation not too long ago. And she's like, Dad, every time I talk to you, you're always trying to fix everything, because they come tell me about, oh, Dad, this what happened at work and this what happened, and I'm like, all right, and as dads, we want to, fix everything. And she's like, I don't want you to fix everything. I just want you to like
Yeah.
listen. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm learning. You know what I mean?
For sure. Yeah.
So in your experience, I know your daughters are half as old as mine,
Yeah.
but in your experience, what has been something that you've learned, from them that has molded you and just to be a better father and a better man?
I think I think one of the things that I've learned, and I feel like truly I've been fortunate to have learned this like sooner, right?
Mhm.
And growing up in my parents, right, my childhood, we didn't really have much, I'd say middle class, lower middle class, if you will, right? Like we didn't have it all. We didn't have all the toys and the things and the trips and the everything, right? And so one of the things that I find myself doing a lot in my life, right, is like I try to amplify all of it, like it's not just it's got to be we're not just going camping, right? We got to be like, oh, we got to give them this and we got to give them that, and there's always this feeling of like, I didn't get enough, so I need to give them what they didn't get. I got to
Mhm.
give them what I didn't get. I
Yeah.
got to give them more. I got to give them more. I got to give them more. And then there's kind of this realization, right, of like, your kids don't want, your kids don't need quality time. They just need time. Like, and you can hear the fancier doctors, the Dr. Peterson or the Dr. Amen or whatever talk about it, like 20 minutes of uninterrupted play where you don't ask questions, you don't do this, but for like young dads, the brand new dads to realize like it's literally it doesn't have to be like it doesn't have to be Disney on Ice, right? Like it's the
Mhm.
Tuesday night movie that your daughter just wants to take you, just wants to go with you to.
Yeah.
It's not Disneyland. It's not it's not camping at. It's not the outdoor adventures campground with all the stuff, right? It's this right here, like this, I wore this on purpose. I picked up this jersey. We went to the Jellystone campground. Never been to any of those, right? You know, like cost a few hundred. You know, pay a little bit of a little premium to go, but it's just that. It's like it's just I'm just there. It's just Dad took 2 days off of work to just go camping, you know. And I remember that as early as when Lennox was two, probably three. She was like three, maybe three and a half. And I still have a picture of it. The very first time I took her out on a daddy daughter date night, right? I called them daddy daughter date nights. We would go to Baskin Robbins. So like, you know, every week, once a week or every couple weeks, just her and I, we go to Baskin Robbins, we get a little ice cream, and she would say, you know, daddy daughter date night ice cream. And it was that, right? Like it wasn't, and it didn't have to be like the best ice cream place and the biggest ice cream cone and the big like, but we put all this pressure on ourselves. Like it's always this idea of like, well, you know, my parents never took me to the nice restaurant or the nice, you know, I didn't get X, Y, Z. So that kind of stuck with me years ago, and I think it might have been someone that was on a podcast of mine or somebody I interviewed that said that. But I heard that they said it's not about quality time; it's just time. Like your daughters simply just want you to be there. They just want you to go to the park. You don't have to have all the baseball and all the everything lined up and all the toys. Like your daughter just literally wants you to go to the frickin' park and sit with her. They want you to just play on the playground. They want you to. Um, so that's kind of been a huge one for me is like letting down my own expectations of thinking I need to like over deliver on the experience or whatever. Yes, babe.
Yeah.
Yep. I know you stole my smoothie. I'm on a podcast. So that's the idea, like just learning to just be there and like let go of my expectations and know that giving them that time is giving them so much more than we realize we're even giving them or probably what we think we're giving them. But to them, it's like the world. You know what I mean? It's like Dad's just here. He's not on his phone. He's not on the computer. He's not taking calls. He's not thinking about work. He just went. You know, and that's been huge for me.
Yeah, and I had a guest. I can't remember if he was on my podcast or I was on his podcast. But he has a dad's podcast too, and I remember us talking about this same topic, right?
Yeah.
And he was saying how he took his family to Disneyland, right? And his daughter would, I think he has two daughters. And it was him and his wife and some of their other family members, and they go to Disney World, and he forgets something in the car. And so he was like, all right, I'm gonna go back to the car and get, whatever it was. And so one of his daughters, his younger daughter, is like, I'm gonna go with you. So he's like, all right, come on, come with me. And so they go, to take this walk back to the car. And on the way coming back, there's the little, they have the little shops or whatever, and they got the Mickey ears. Right.
Yeah.
And so she's like, Dad, I wanna get the ears. And he was like, these ears cost like $30, you know what I mean? For these ears or whatever. So he's like, all right. So he was gonna buy her one, and she was like, no, I want you to buy one too. So he's like, all right, fine. So he bought a pair for him, and he bought a pair for her. And then they took a couple pictures or whatever. And he was like, she loved that so much. Years later, she still has the Mickey ears.
That's cool.
It's like the whole trip probably costed, I don't know how much money, and how many days they stayed there, and all of that stuff from a dad's thought process.
Right.
But to her, the only thing that mattered was that brief couple minutes with the Mickey ears. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, like you said, like it don't even have to be all the grandeur that we, want to put into it. It's just like, no, we just need the moment. You know what I mean? They just need the moment.
One of the greatest things I do with my girls, like today, still we do all the times. We'll go to Chuck E. Cheese, and Chuck E. Cheese is like, it's like the games aren't that fun,
Right.
It's like an hour of gameplay. That's it. But every single time we go there, right? My favorite part of all of it are the two little cameras. So there's the one you sit in a chair and you get the pictures, and then on the back side you can stand up and get them. So like I've got so many pictures of me and my girls at Chuck E. Cheese, and it was just last week actually. Lennox was cleaning up her room, and she's like, "Yeah, come here," and she pulled out a top drawer from her desk, and she took like 4 or 5 of our Chuck E. Cheese pictures, and she lined them up in the bottom of her top drawer, And she pulled it out. I was like, oh my God. I was like, look at you, girl. I was like, oh my God, that's sweet. I'm like, because to me, like, that's every time we go, right? So it's like almost, I have all these pictures of like, oh, she was like 6 and then 8. And then there's every few years, and it's Chuck E. Cheese. It costs like, it's like $20. You play for an hour, and you hang out. But that's funny too. You said that about Disney. It's funny. I talked to a lady one time. I don't remember who she was, but I remember I had a conversation with a woman. This was right around COVID time, and I remember she told me, she was like, me and my husband, and they both had good jobs. I think they worked, they did whatever. She's like, every single year we've taken our kids to Disney. Like once a year we go to Disney. They love it. They love it. And I remember with COVID time, she's like, this was the first year we couldn't go to Disney, and we took They took a camping trip for the week instead. Mm-hmm. And she's like, all my kids talk about is that camping trip we had with Dad this year. She's like, they've never talked about Disney. Like none of it. She's like, the best time, they said the most fun they've ever had was our trip where we went camping for a week instead of Disney. And I'm like, that's what I've been telling you. Like, you guys are thinking we're going to, because she's like, a tradition. And every year we got to take the kids back to Disney and they'll love it. And it's like, it's mostly for you and your ego. Let's be honest. It's you. You got to feel good. You got to look good. You got to, like, come on. 4-year-old doesn't even remember Disney, all right? Like, wait till she's old enough to make it worthwhile or something.
Right. Because I think in our minds, we think that they're really going to remember this and remember, not necessarily the cost, but more the sacrifice. I don't know how you want to say it, but to them, it's like, and even though it's a nice experience, when it comes to the experience of being parents, when you take your child to Disney World or any of the big attractions like that, it's more of them interacting with the environment.
Right.
You know what I mean? You see the pictures and the characters and all of that stuff. That's not really your relation. You know what I'm saying? Your experience with them.
Yeah.
So that camping trip was like, it's just us.
Right.
You know what I mean? So we're making fires and cutting woods and putting up tents, and you know what I mean? Yeah. So that was, I definitely understand why that would be a more impressive memory to their kids, because that's when they had their uninvited attention. It's like, okay, it's us together, and not the characters or whoever, wherever it is. I think that's again, going back to what you said earlier, is not the necessarily quality of the time, it's just the time. I want to ask a question. So, as a dad, right? We have a lot of things that we learn, and some things that we hang our hats on. As being, fathers. As a dad, what would you say would probably be one of your biggest accomplishments that you made, as being a dad? It's like, I did that right. You know what I mean?
Wow. You know what? I think it's interesting perspective, but so for me, when we first had so I've always wanted to have kids, right? If anyone heard the other episode or heard the podcast, right? Synopsis. I lost my dad when I was super young, 17 years old. Spent most of my life fatherless after that. So I've always kind of wanted to like fill that void for myself and be a dad, be a good dad. And one of the things that I've always kind of prided myself on is, my wife and I being married is like, one of us can stay home. Like, I always wanted to have one parent home with the kids, to kind of make up for not having my parents, not having dad around when I was growing up. So one of the things I used to tell people all the time is I was like, kind of my slight ego, but a little bit of my high horse. I'd be like, oh, I retired my wife at 30. And that was when I took a job, when I went from stocking shelves at Sam's Club, doing retail, when we first had Lennox, and then studied my ass off, passed my Series 7, 66, got fully licensed financial advisor, took that 8 to 5 and did that. But when I did that, that's when we started the e-commerce brand as well, selling on Amazon and stuff. But one of the proudest moments for me was being able to do that and provide for my family enough so that my wife was able to stay home with Lennox for the first 3 or 4 years of her life. Like, that was just huge for me and monumental to be able to give my daughter that time with her mom for those first like 3 or 4 years, and even today when I look back at it, with our second daughter and things kind of shifting and us doing a lot more business stuff and everything together, like just having that, like, I think it's very evident in Lennox, like just her relationships and her maturity and just the way she's grown up and developed. You can just, I know there's the importance of that, right? So like it's the can of worms, right? Of like, and I just heard Dr. Peterson say that yesterday on a Facebook reel that I thought really struck me. Is he said like, how terrible is it in this world that we've gotten to the point where it has to be like a luxury for a mother to be able to stay home with her children for the first 3 years of a child's life. So for me, that's kind of just one of my proudest moments for giving that gift to Lennox and to my wife, to be able to just to have been able to provide for us and our family with the business and everything we had at the time, that much. I definitely crushed that suit and tie lie. I hated that world after a while, but looking back at it, that was one of the greatest things I think I could have done for Lennox at least, was to be able to give her that chance to just really have a brand new mom and a brand new daughter to just like, because we're not the nurturers, you know what I mean? Like
Right.
they need mom, and they need that like just that softness and that sweetness and that touch, for those first couple of years, I think, before they get into school. And that's kind of one of my greatest accomplishments, I think.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So on the flip side of that, right?
Yeah.
Before we got on, you had asked me about the daddy daughter dance, and we've talked about it, on this podcast a lot because it's been something that I wanted to do, was to do the daddy daughter
Yeah.
dance. Um, so we actually just did it. Our first daddy daughter dance, maybe 2 weeks before we were recording this podcast. But the reason why that was so monumental for me was because when my daughter was 7 or 8, uh, probably 7 or 8 years old, something like that, probably younger than that, she had her first daddy daughter dance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I had to work, and I was just like, well, I'll catch the next one, and like I said, she's 22 years old. There's never was the next one. And so
Oh,
that was always something that bothered me, you know
yeah.
what I mean? And so one of the things that I wanted to do was to have the daddy daughter dance, and so we just recently did our daddy daughter dance, our first annual daddy daughter dance,
Yeah.
because we're going to do it every year. And so we just did that, but that came from me not taking that moment, as we talked about earlier, not taking the time to have that moment. And so that's something that, I always remembered and was like, all right, I could have did that better. So is there any um examples or any experiences that you had that you was like, all right, we talked about, the greatest greatest memory as a dad, but is there another memory is like, yeah, I didn't quite get it right that time?
Dude, I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of them, right? Where I wish I could take it back or do it or re-say it, or not say it. Um, but I don't know. I think just for me personally, over the years there's been conversations with Lennox, with my oldest, right, and my wife about just the idea that Lennox is like, I don't want to tell Daddy that. Like, I don't want to talk to Dad that. I don't want Dad to be mad at me. Like, I've heard that before. Like, it's just this blanket. Dad's gonna get upset with me. And so like for me, there's a bit there's a bit of like a, it's not a temper, but there's like a quick to anger kind of that I got from my dad over the years, right?
Mhm.
And I think like there's just like this. There's been like this persona sometimes where Lennox has made the assumption like Dad's going to get mad at me, and I'm like, no, babe, like Dad's not mad at all. Like Dad's not mad, like. But to me, so like to me, that's one of my biggest failures is just the hurt that you know she'll go to my wife first and know, hey, I can go tell mom that, but I don't want to tell dad. One of the biggest things I want is to be able to have her like, you could tell me any of it and all of it. You know what I mean? Like you can
Yeah.
but like you say, right? Like, your daughter, maybe, maybe there's times where she's held back because she's like, I don't want dad to fix it. Like you're like,
Yeah.
no, I'm not gonna fix it. I'm not gonna fix it. But like, so for me, there's just like that little assumption of kind of like, is dad gonna be mad at me? I'm like, honey, I don't even get mad. Like, no, come on. Like, I just, so it's kind of
Yeah.
like, man, it's the question of self reflection, right? Of like, what did I do to make her think if she tells me I'm gonna get upset? And that
Mm.
I think that comes from like, I think sometimes I have a lot of judgment toward my wife. Like if my wife says something and then I'm like, oh, it's like, there's that reaction. So it's what they see. It's like what
Yeah.
she sees. Dad's always mad at mom. Mom said this, dad got mad. Mom said that. And so I think just like kind of breaking that, if I can think, you know what I mean? It's just always those moments of like, man, I wish I had said this to her that night. Or I wish I hadn't said that. I wish that
Yeah.
one night I just didn't snap. I didn't yell. I didn't get, you know.
Yeah. Great. Great. So, just off the top of your head, as we before we close, what is something? Do you have a uh, experience that just whatever that you might want to share, just an experience that you may have had, with your daughters, good or bad, whatever, it's up to you. Or it could even be a learning experience for the other dads that's out here, especially with the work that you do and things of that nature. Do you have any experience that maybe you would like to share that, because I always say, reflecting just back on, that first episode with
Yeah.
my cousin that's just getting started on his journey, like something you could share that, maybe can help him out, on the journey that he's on.
Yeah, I think there's just this idea of there's an idea of embracing for your daughters any and all interests that they have. So you might want them to play piano, you want them to get in karate, or you want them to play soccer, or you want them to whatever. But like for dads, I think the biggest thing we can do is to take that time and like actually sit back and see what they like. So for my daughter, she's not sports, right? We tried volleyball, we tried basketball, but for her, the single greatest thing that she loved more than anything was the one season that her and I took MMA together. We took a mixed martial arts together. And then my daughter can draw like it's nobody's business, and she can sing like it's nobody's business. And I think for me, one of the greatest things is back in the day when she was 3, 4. We lived in a small little apartment. And it was almost daily. It was like every couple of days, or at least once a week. We would do these daddy daughter dance parties, I called them. So whenever we were in the car, right, I do a Facebook Live and I hit it, and we would just whatever was playing, like we'd crank it out. I remember I have a video of us one time in the apartment, and we're doing Demi Lovato's "Tell Me You Love Me," um, and I look back at those videos, right, and I think like I think I had some small little part in helping shift her into her love of singing and music and watching The Voice. She watches The Voice and American Idol, and just all those things. And it's because I embraced it, right? Like I helped encourage her on the things she wanted to do that was natural to her, rather than being, well, you really need to try volleyball. Oh, you didn't like volleyball? You
Mhm.
really need to try basketball. You didn't like basketball? You really need to do soccer. Like because like helping your daughters discover their purpose and their passion at a young age, you know, can change their life. Can change their life, no matter how you might think. You know what I mean? Like she might be the next Disney animator. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
does like it's crazy those things she'll do. She watches that one shameless plug for that guy on YouTube. Whatever that YouTube guy is the dad with his daughter, and they draw little characters and like teach how to draw them, and they like to draw alongs and stuff or whatever. And it's crazy. It's like the funny little thing. We like fold the pictures and you pop it open. It's like all
Yeah.
another picture. I'm like, how in the hell did you draw that, babe? Like, that's what I do stick figures and potato people nowadays. Like, um, but I just love her. I love her for it. Her little voice and her little drawing skills. Um, and it just like it makes my heart happy when I look back at those things. And like age 4, 5, 6, she was just my little girl in that apartment complex every night. We would walk around the same loop. We'd listen to Les Brown. I listened to my podcast, and there was a little pavilion in the center there. And I have so many videos of us just like daddy daughter pavilion time, I called it. And it's just those things, man. It's just those memories that we take for granted so much
Yeah.
when they're 8, 9, 10, and they like start to just, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just that, man. I think just embracing what they like is, I think, one of the single greatest things a dad can do for their daughters, and I think that's what I did. I think I had a little part of
Yeah.
that, to them, like, babe, keep singing, baby, sing your heart out, girl, sing your heart
Yeah.
out, baby.
Yeah, and it changes too. It changes too because I know when my daughter, my daughter liked to draw too. I have the gift of drawing, and I haven't
Nice,
drawn in years. But that's one of the things that she actually, I could say, she got from me
that's
is the
cool.
ability to draw. And so she used to draw a lot when she was younger, and then as she got a little older, she got into photography. And I was
Nice,
like, all right, and I was, uh, like really kind of like, okay, if that's what you want to do, kind of push her in that way. And then she was like, all right, I want to do that no more.
yeah,
So it's like, okay, what do you want
yeah,
to do? You know what I mean? So it's like, you're allowing them that space, especially as they get older, to figure out, what it is that they want and what they want to do for a job or a career and things of that nature, and just kind of support them, in that way. So we're gonna take a turn a little bit, right? To a segment of the podcast that I call "Getting to the Core," right?
yeah,
And so I sent you a copy of the Core Four ebook that I wrote, which is the Core Four values that every daughter should get from her father. And to my audience, you guys can get your copy of the Core 4 ebook at ebooksbyejames.com. Again, that's ebooksbyejames.com. And it's the Core 4 ebook, which is the Core 4 values that every daughter should get from her father. And so those four values are guidance, affirmation, love and affection, and protection. And so, just for you, Jason, when you look at those four values in your own life as a father, which of those values probably were is the most important to you to instill in your daughter?
100% affirmations. Like, I mean, the love languages, Gary Chapman's book, right? Like, I am personally, I'm
Mhm.
a huge words of affirmation. Um, and I think 100% honestly, the way the world is today, as says,
Yeah.
like, the mental health epidemic, I think, like, you hear it years and you hear it over and over again, tell your daughter you love her, tell your daughter you love her. But, like, for me, there was an episode of John Deloney, or just a random clip I heard one time, right? He said the single greatest thing you can do for your daughter every day is to give her a hug and put your hand right here on the back of her neck and hold her for a moment and tell her how much you love her and how beautiful she is and how much she's, just like, it just calms the central nervous system as a whole. But, like, every day, man, every day you tell your daughter, you tell her you're beautiful, you're loved, you're special. Like, there's not enough times in the world that your daughter can hear from her dad that she is loved and respected.
Yeah.
Because 100%, when she's 15, when she's 20, when she's 30, like, as a dad, we don't even want to think about what's going to happen in the world. We don't even want to think about that shit, okay? But, like, for them to know, I am confident, I am amazing, I am loved, I am strong, I am worthy, I am valuable, like, for them to be able to carry that into their future and have the self respect for themselves. You know what I mean? To
Yeah.
find a good person, to find a good man is, one of the greatest things. Which you think about it, right? So it just, at the end of my book, right, one of the chapters that the dad wrote that I loved, and it struck me in your book, right, when he talked about affirmations, and it talked about, when your woman grows up and the person she sees is, he wrote a quick chapter called "Daddy, Will You Marry Me?" And it was about how his little girl came up to him one day and said, "Daddy, will you marry me?" And he stopped and he started really thinking about, like, like, the way they watch you treat your wife in your home every single day is 100% the expectation of how a man should treat a woman, and that is who they will find in a partner.
Yeah.
I was just like, like, literally, you, the man, as a father, are defining for your daughter what type of man is worthy enough, is good enough for her.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't stop and be like, holy shit, I need to think about how I treat my wife, how I speak to my wife, how I love my wife, girlfriend, whatever, But like
Yeah.
even the little things, like, do you hold her hand? Do you kiss her? Do you give your wife hugs in front of your daughter so your daughter can literally grow up at 22 years old and be like, my boyfriend needs to hug me more. My boyfriend needs to hold my hand. My boyfriend needs to open the door for me. Like, because that's what they're looking for, man. Like they're looking
Mm.
for us to reaffirm, like you said in your book, they're looking for affirmations from us of how they should be treated as a woman. And you're just kind of like, you're like, wow, no pressure, Dad. But
Right.
so that I think is just and it's huge. Like I say it as a man, as a fatherless boy who became a fatherless father. Like we grown ass men still need to hear words of
Yeah.
affirmation at age. I'm 38. Like I still want someone to
Mm.
tell me, "Good job, Jason. You're doing
Right.
good. You're doing good, kid. Like you're a good dad. You're a good husband. You're a good father. I mean, we all shit. We all want the Lord. We all like it when we hear from God. Like you're a good father, Jason. Um, I'll start crying now, but just thinking about that, like you don't realize it's like, oh yeah, tell your lover, yeah, tell your lover
Mm.
once. No, it's like every single day. Tell her I love you. You're beautiful. You're confident. You're strong. You don't ever forget that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to touch on two things that you just mentioned that I think is important. One of the things that I talk about, and I think I talk about it briefly in the book, is that as a woman, right? As a woman, your daughter never stops needing those core values. They just look for it from someone else,
Yeah,
right?
I read
And
that.
so when we talk about, being that example and giving them those values, when they start looking for a mate, a spouse, they're going to look for those values to get those values from, whoever that man is in their lives. And so they never stop needing those values. And one of the other things that I often share is another thing, like you just said, about us as men, needed to hear the words of affirmation. Those same core values, even though I wrote the book, from a father to a daughter aspect, those same values our sons need too. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And those same values we need as men too. Like we need guidance sometime, and sometimes we need to be affirmed. Like you said, and even protected sometime. The little boy in us, that grew up, fatherless, or that grew up without, the figures in our lives that we would have wanted. Sometimes that little boy in us, even as grown men, sometimes still need to be protected. And so those core values goes for girls and boys. And so yeah, I just wanted to point that out. But yeah, man, great conversation, Jason. Man, I definitely appreciate having you on. To my listeners, make sure you guys go and check out my episode with me and Jason on the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, because that was an awesome that was an awesome podcast as well, where we both had got to sit down and chop it up on some things with him, talking about got more into his journey as a fatherless father, should we say.
Yeah.
And I think that was an amazing episode. So make sure you guys go and check that out. Jason, before we get out of here, man, I want you to have the last word. So you definitely dropped some great nuggets on us uh, as dads, and things that we need to look out for. But I'll let you have the last word. You can leave us with a word of thought, and
Yeah.
then tell us how we can work with you. Definitely where we can get the book, because I want to make sure that I have the
Yeah.
book in the description and things of that nature.
Yeah. Absolutely, man. Well, I think we didn't touch on it much tonight, but I think that no matter who you are as a dad out there, I just want you to know that one of the single most important pieces that you can ever do for your daughter and for yourself is that one conversation that you may need to have with her. Um, and that's maybe she's 10, 12, 15, either 4, 5, 6 years old, 15, 20, 30, 40. The amount of women and young girls I've talked to over the years, that have fatherhood wounds, and they suffer. from the pain or the hurt or the something, and it can be as big or as small as that one conversation, that one trip, that one birthday, that one anything. But I like to tell everybody that you are one conversation away from the rest of your life, and you deserve it. So I would encourage you as a dad, Mr. Drop your, I don't talk about my feelings. I don't know what to say. I don't want to talk about this. I can't talk to my daughter. Like, I would say take your daughter out this weekend, daddy-daughter date night, make it a Saturday morning breakfast, pancakes, coffee, and just go have a conversation with her. Sit down with her, just the two of you, and even just tell her, if you're listening to this podcast, or just tell her, like, hey, even if it's simple as like, hey, I don't really know what to do all the time. I'm not really sure what to say, but I just want to remind you that I love you and I see you and you're beautiful and you're strong and you're confident and I'm proud of you. Because I think that's super important. And that's the last note I'll leave you with is the book. The first one is The Confident Father's Guidebook, 5 Steps to Personal Transformation. And the second one was Father-Daughter Conversations. And that was a collection of stories from myself and 10 other dads. And I asked them the question, I said, hey, what would you tell a brand new dad of a daughter? Like, what the hell do I do? But they each put a really good chapter into that story, into that book. And then I came up with conversation starters at the end of each chapter with the hope that you would do just what I said, what I'm saying, that you would read the book, grab a question, and go out and just have a conversation with your daughter. And just understand, dads, that like, man, they are craving. Your daughters are yearning for nothing more than your attention and your time and your love. And I don't care what you think you have that is more important than them. Your work, your career, your paycheck, your job. I don't care how big or how small it is or how important you think it might be. Well, God first, your wife second, your daughter third. That's my perspective. But your daughters are yearning for you, man. And 2025, it's a mental crisis. It's a mental health crisis. We're just gonna call it what it is. Yeah. And your daughters could be, they might need you more. They need your voice more than Dad. And my hope is that you would just go out and take 5 minutes and just give them some time. It doesn't need to be quality time. Just give them some time and just remind them that you love them and you're there for them. So if you want a copy of the book to help with that, I also have a PDF. If anybody wants it, they can find me on Facebook or message me. I have a private Telegram coaching program that I offer monthly, but I have a PDF of conversation starters, which is the questions from all the chapter, or the questions from the book. You can get that. If you want it, reach out. Otherwise, pick up a copy of the book. I don't have the funnel up right now, but it's on Amazon, so you pick it up. I think it's like $6 right now. So grab yourself a copy of Father-Daughter Conversations and just get out there and go grab breakfast with your daughter, man. And appreciate what you have while you have it with them.
Yeah. All right, man. Thank you so very much, Jason. We can't end it no better than that. To all of my listeners, all my dads and my girl dads, we definitely love you and appreciate you. Definitely wanted to, again, our mission for this podcast is to amplify the voices of girl dads to the world in order to combat the narrative of the absent father and the fatherless daughter. So you guys go out there and build those relationships, take out that time and love on your daughters. Until next time, you guys be blessed. Thanks for listening to the Girl Dad Discussions podcast with E. James. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and subscribe to our podcast on all your podcast listening platforms. Also, don't keep it to yourself, but share it with someone else. That the Girl Dad Discussions podcast is on the air. Until next time, be blessed.